Welcome to XRP Pro Ledger, and today we are going deep on something that creates panic in this community every single month, and that almost nobody is explaining correctly. 1 billion XRP. That is the headline number that appears in whale alert notifications, in YouTube thumbnails, and in social media posts every time the first of the month arrives. And every single month, the same narrative follows. Ripple is dumping 1 billion XRP. The price is going to drop. Sell pressure is coming. On June 1st of 2026, 1 billion XRP was released from Escrow in 3 separate transactions. 500 million, 400 million, and 100 million. And the community reacted the same way it always reacts. But here is what the community is not showing you: the relock math. I want you to stay with me through this entire breakdown, because at the 7-minute mark, I'm going to show you exactly what happens to that 1 billion XRP after it leaves Escrow. Why the number that actually reaches the open market is between 200 million and 400 million, not 1 billion. And why understanding the difference between the headline number and the real number changes how you should think about XRP supply pressure entirely. But first, let us establish where this entire system came from, because understanding the origin of Ripple's Escrow tells you exactly why it was designed the way it was. In December of 2017, Ripple placed 55 billion XRP into a series of escrow contracts. At the time, total XRP supply was 100 billion. Ripple's 55 billion represented 55% of the entire supply, locked in a transparent on-chain mechanism that anyone could verify through the public XRP ledger. The reason Ripple did this was specific and structural. Before the escrow, the community and institutional participants had no way to know how much XRP Ripple might sell at any given time. Ripple held large reserves and could theoretically release significant quantities whenever it chose, creating unpredictable supply uncertainty that made it difficult for institutions to model XRP's supply dynamics. The escrow solved that problem. By locking 55 billion XRP into contracts that released a maximum of 1 billion per month, Ripple gave the market complete visibility into the maximum possible supply addition in any given month. The schedule was transparent, the amounts were fixed, and the on-chain verification meant no one had to trust Ripple's word. They could verify it themselves. That is not a mechanism designed for dumping. That is a mechanism designed for supply predictability. Now let us talk about what actually happens to the 1 billion XRP after it leaves escrow, because this is the part that almost nobody explains correctly. Ripple receives 1 billion XRP from escrow on the first of each month. It then allocates that XRP across its operational needs. On-demand liquidity corridors require XRP as the bridge asset for cross-border payments. Ripple's partnerships and ecosystem development require XRP for incentives and integrations. RLUSD operations require XRP for the ledger activity that backs stablecoin transactions. After those operational uses are funded, the remainder, which historically represents between 60 and 80% of the monthly release, is returned to new escrow contracts. 60 to 80% relocked every single month. That means the net new XRP that actually reaches the open market from escrow operations is between 200 million and 400 million per month, not 1 billion. The whale alert notification shows 1 billion leaving escrow. The reality is 200 to 400 million reaching the market. The community panics about the 1 billion. The data shows the actual supply impact is 60 to 80% smaller. Now let us talk about the current state of the escrow as of June 1st of 2026. After today's release of 1 billion XRP, the remaining escrow balance stands at approximately 38.15 billion XRP. 38.15 billion XRP still locked in escrow, still subject to the same monthly release schedule, still being systematically relocked at 60 to 80% every month. The circulating supply as of today is approximately 61.85 billion XRP, out of a total fixed supply of 100 billion. 100 billion is the permanent cap. It will never increase. There is no mechanism to create new XRP. The total supply is mathematically fixed. Now let us talk about what the relocking strategy tells you about how Ripple is managing its XRP position in 2026. In recent months, Ripple has relocked approximately 700 million XRP from each monthly 1 billion release, sometimes more, sometimes slightly less, but consistently in the 60 to 80% range. That pattern is not accidental. It tells you that Ripple's operational XRP needs, the amount it actually uses for ODL, partnerships, and ecosystem development, have been running running at approximately 200 to 300 million XRP per month. And those operational uses are not sell pressure in the traditional sense. ODL liquidity providers use XRP as a bridge and immediately convert back to fiat, creating a flow-through demand pattern rather than a directional sale. The XRP that moves through ODL corridors does not accumulate as sell pressure on exchanges. It moves through the system and supports the payment flows that Ripple's institutional clients require. Now let us connect the Escrow story to the broader supply picture that has been assembling in 2026. Exchange reserves have dropped from 3.76 billion XRP to approximately 1.66 billion XRP since October 2025. That is a 56% decline in liquid supply in under 8 months. Whale wallets controlling 68.5% of circulating supply are holding in private custody. 905 million XRP is locked in ETF custody. Now add the escrow picture. Of the 61.85 billion XRP in circulating supply, 68.5% is in whale private custody. 905 million is in ETF custody, and the remaining exchange accessible supply has been compressed by 56%. The 1 billion monthly escrow release, of which 60 to 80% gets relocked, is adding a maximum of 400 million XRP to the market per month, into a supply pool that is already at historic compression levels. 400 million XRP per month, arriving into a market where exchange reserves have been cut in half, is not meaningful sell pressure. It is a predictable and transparent supply addition that institutional participants have already modeled into their positioning. Now let us talk about what the escrow math means specifically for the Clarity Act timeline. The Clarity Act advanced from the Senate Banking Committee 15-9 on May 14th. The full Senate needs 60 votes. Senate recess begins August 10th. The mid-July window is the effective deadline. Between now and August 10th, approximately 2 to 3 escrow unlocks will occur on schedule. Each will generate the same whale alert panic, the same community anxiety, and the same misunderstanding of the relock math. Each time, the reality will be the same: 60 to 80% relocked, 200 to 400 million net new supply, arriving into a market that is already compressed by 56% on exchange reserves. The escrow schedule is not a threat to the Clarity Act catalyst. It is a predictable background event that institutional participants have already modeled and discounted. Now let us talk about something that most people in this community have not fully processed about the long-term escrow picture. When the 55 billion XRP was locked in December 2017, the intention was a 55-month release schedule, meaning the original escrow was designed to run through approximately 2022. But the relocking mechanism changed that timeline significantly. Because Ripple relocks 60 to 80% of each monthly release into new escrow contracts, the effective escrow duration extends far beyond the original 55 months. The 38.15 billion XRP remaining in escrow today represents approximately 38 months of future releases at 1 billion per month. But with 60 to 80% relocking, the actual drawdown rate means this escrow supply extends significantly further into the future. That extended timeline is not bearish. It is the supply predictability mechanism working exactly as designed. Institutions evaluating XRP do not see a 38 billion XRP escrow overhang as a threat. They see a transparent and mathematically verifiable supply schedule that tells them the maximum possible supply addition in any given month, and they model their positions accordingly. Now, I want to address something directly, because this community deserves a rational voice on what the escrow system actually means and what it does not mean. The escrow relocking rate is not fixed. In periods where Ripple has higher operational needs, more XRP flows into the market. In periods where demand for ODL corridors increases, more XRP moves through the bridge asset mechanism. David Schwartz has been consistent about this. The supply picture for XRP is transparent, on-chain verifiable, and predictable in a way that no other major crypto asset can match. That predictability is a feature for institutional adoption, not a risk. What the June 1st escrow unlock tells you is structural. 1 billion released, 60 to 80% relocked, 200 to 400 million net new supply, 38.15 billion remaining, supply compression continuing on every other metric simultaneously. Now, I want to talk about what most people in this community are getting wrong right now. XRP is trading between $1.34 and $1.35. 1 billion XRP was released from escrow today. 60 to 80% will be relocked. The net new supply is 200 to 400 million. Exchange reserves are down 56%. Whale wallets hold 68.5%. ETFs hold 905 million. And the community is treating the whale alert notification as bad news. The relock math says something completely different. 1 billion headline, 60 to 80% relocked, 200 to 400 million actual market impact into a supply pool already compressed by 56%. That is not sell pressure, that is supply management. So let us zoom out and see the complete picture assembling right now. June 1st, 2026 escrow unlock. 1 billion XRP released in 3 transactions. 500 million, 400 million, 100 million. 60 to 80% historically relocked. Net new supply 200 to 400 million per month. Escrow remaining 38.15 billion. Circulating supply 61.85 billion. Total fixed supply 100 billion. Exchange reserves down 56% since October 2025. Whale wallets 68.5%. ETF custody 905 million. Clarity Act advancing toward August 10th deadline. Monica Long, CNBC. Capital markets logical next expansion. Pantera 320 billion tokenized. XRPL 124% QOQ growth. The whale alert showed 1 billion. The relock math shows 60 to 80% goes back. The community panics about the headline. The institutions already modeled the reality. If this analysis changed how you are thinking about what the monthly escrow unlock actually means for XRP supply pressure, hit like and subscribe. I drop deep dive breakdowns like this twice a day to keep you ahead of the move.